Do you ever have that feeling that it's like my team is doing their job? They're really busy, and sometimes it may even seem that they're overworked. But when you look at the dashboard, when you look at the results, if you're really honest with yourself, the results are not increasing to the level of the busyness of the organization or your team. You're wondering why. It feels like when you're looking at how busy and how even overworked we are, our results should be so much higher than what they are, but it seems like that they're just inching forward and not making great leaps toward what our productivity and our performance is showing on paper. Now, if that's you, if you're a little frustrated with your results and you want to find out what's wrong, stay tuned for today's coaching session. Why your team feels overworked, but the results stay the same. Hey, what's going on, friend? It's Barry E. Knight. Want to take this time to welcome you to today's coaching session. Listen, before I get started, do me a favor and subscribe to this YouTube channel. That way you know when videos like this are coming up, and also click the notification bell. That way you can be notified when new videos are coming so you don't miss any episode of the coaching session. Today's coaching session, I want to talk about why your team feels more overworked, but results stay the same. Now, to be honest, I was actually going to just send this as an email out to my leadership community, but I thought this would be a perfect conversation to have with you, especially if you are an executive leader, if you're leading a team, a department, or even if you have oversight over an entire organization. This is going to be for you. As a matter of fact, this is the stuff that I bring to my clients. So I took this email that I wrote and kind of threw it in ChatGPT so I can have kind of some bullet points and a script. I'm going to be reading a lot, but I'm going to come back to you. So I encourage you to get a pen, paper, smartphone, dumb phone, as I often jokingly say, and take copious notes. I think this will be probably one of the most transformational and pivotal videos that I've done thus far. So if you're ready, let's get ready to rock and roll. So I want to start with something that I often see when I work with my executive team clients. I walk into a room. Everyone in the room is smart, they're capable, they're experienced, they're experts, they know their role, they know their job. They got into this particular industry not necessarily because of the compensation. That's great and that's awesome for them, but they got into the industry because of the mission. They want to achieve that particular outcome. But what happens over time is they get busier and get busier, and all of a sudden this dysfunction and infighting starts to develop, and they can't really pinpoint why it's happening. It seems like they're working harder, but they're just producing bare minimum results. All of this is happening. They're busy. They're running around like chickens with their heads cut off, but for whatever reason, they're just barely getting similar results. Like if they look year to year, they can see themselves getting busier and busier, but the results are not equaling their busyness and them being overworked and putting in more time. Why does that happen? Well, it's usually two things that I'm going to be sharing with you today. Why does your team feel more overworked? As the title of this coaching session is, but the results stay the same. Once again, I'm going to be reading some things down here, but I want to make sure I'm connecting with you as well. So progress feels slower than expected. Teams are busy, but outcomes aren't what they need to be. And there's usually this underlying frustration that no one knows how to fully name, but everyone feels it. So why does that happen? So what I do when I come to the rooms with my clients is I want to slow things down. I want to get them to focus on the system that they're running, or I call it sometimes the play, right? If we're in sports, we know about running the play. Oftentimes, the problem, the system failure becomes a part of their operation. So they're literally, they can't see it because it's how they're operating. But I help them through a couple of processes and pillars that I have here. I help them see the whole system. I have a whole diagnosis framework. I won't talk about that right now. I'll save that for another video, but a whole diagnostic process to help them see the entire system clearly. So the challenge with this overwork and feeling busy and the results not increasing to the level of the busyness, what the challenge that I find is systems failure isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. Systems failure is it's quiet. It's covert, even sneaky sometimes. It just shows up. Again, it doesn't send a memo, an email, a LinkedIn message, an IG inbox. It gives you none of that. It just shows up, and I'll show you kind of how it shows up, but it sneaks in so quietly and again, so covertly that over time, it just looks like operations. It just looks like this is how we work. And we learn subconsciously a lot of times, we learn how to work this way. This is how we work. This is the way we work in the office, and that's how we train people. Or well, here's what really happens: we train people on the right way, but then they get assimilated into the wrong way, and they forget about the training, or they find out very quickly, oh, the training, that's not really how it's done. That's not the way we really do things around here. And then they assimilate into the system's failure. Again, system failure isn't loud. It's very covert. It's quiet. It's sneaky. And so what I do is I come in and I help the client, my clients, map out how the system is actually working. Not how it's supposed to work, not how they think it works or they were trained on it working, but how the system actually works, how it really happens around here. And when we do that, we start to see that a few patterns begin to develop across different departments. We start to, I have a client right now, I leave the systems on the wall because I want to remind myself of these patterns that we have to undo. We have to unlearn these organizational patterns that produce the frustration, that produce the busy work and make others feel overworked. And my friend, if that keeps happening in your organization where we're not looking at the system, when we don't know the system, that's the first part. I'll get to the second part in a moment. But if we don't know that, then we put our top talent at risk of moving on, looking at other organizations, maybe even competitors leaving our organization because we haven't accurately sat down and figured out why do we keep producing the same outcomes, the same results, but we feel more busy year to year. In other words, year to year, it feels like we're getting more busy. And as we get more busy, we think, oh, we're overloaded. We need to hire more people. And now here's this huge $1 million expense that we're adding on plus, right? More than $1 million expense that we're adding on because we're really not looking at the system's failure because it snuck in so sneakily. I don't know if that's a word, but it was so sneaky when it came in. It looked like your operations. Okay, so I've seen this so many times, and here's three things that I've learned. People are working hard, but shared systems and priorities aren't clear. Write this down, or write that down rather. People are working hard, but shared systems and priorities aren't always clear. The second thing that I've learned is workarounds, as I've mentioned before, have quietly become the system. This is the way we do work. This is the way we have our meetings. I know that's pretty lame, but I wanted to stick with you, right? These are the things that happen. And I've also learned that most importantly, ownership outcomes are unclear. That's really what I want to hone in on right there. I want to focus on that. We break down the system. We don't revisit the system. The system just becomes a part of our operations. And the reason that easily happens, that's number one. Number two, the reason it easily happens is because the system outcomes, or the ownership rather of the system outcomes, are unclear. Now, here's what's interesting. When leaders first hear that, when I share that with them in sessions, in our executive team strategy sessions, they don't always see it immediately. They don't get it. They just think, well, Barry, everybody's doing their job. We're showing up on time. We're staying late. We get the job done. Again, we see the results, and that's the challenge. If I can even say, that might be the scary thing that's happening, is we're still getting our results, even though how we're doing it sucks. It's horrible how we have to get these results. It doesn't feel that this is the way we should be working, but we continue working that way because we've, again, subconsciously taught ourselves that this is the way we do our work. I won't sing the song to get the outcomes. But as we go deeper, I use my accelerated change continuum. It's 7 pillars that helps them walk through. What we do is we begin to map out what it is that we really want to try to achieve, and we begin to look at the breakdowns, the themes that keep showing up from department to department, and we stress test it. We stress test it. I can't say that word. Stress test it until the breakdowns become evident to us and they're clear. And we start to see that the work is happening, effort is there, but the system lacks a clear through line of ownership. So for whatever reason, we're not seeing who owns the issue, who owns the problem, who owns the outcome, who owns all of this, who owns the system at that particular point, or who owns the handoff, or who are the two departments that collectively own the handoff, and who signs off that the handoff was made properly. These are the things that keep organizations, again, speeding up, creating workarounds. And by the way, anytime you create a workaround, you're adding more work, but you're also reducing efficiency and effectiveness. And when ownership is unclear, 3 things begin to happen. Again, if you're taking notes, take copious notes. Number 1, decisions slow down. When ownership is unclear, decisions slow down. It takes longer to get a decision made. Why? Because we're not sure who should be making the decision on that, because somebody created a workaround and we didn't design. That wasn't a part of the original systems design. It was this thing because we got tired, or maybe the ball kept getting dropped, or things didn't work out the way we wanted it to. We didn't get it fast enough. So we created our own workaround to get what we needed so we can process, do our part, and deliver it to the next step. But nobody still knows who owns that breakdown. Number 2, the reason that ownership is unclear, number 2, is because handoffs break down. Why does that happen? Because responsibility isn't defined. Nobody knows who's responsible for the breakdown. Matter of fact, nobody wants to admit that they're responsible for the breakdown. And number 3, people start compensating. I'll even add the word incentivizing the system's failure, or the workaround, or that unknown breakdown that this department is kind of just fixing as they're trying to do business. They know it's broken. They don't say anything because they have to hurry up and get their part done for the next department so that they can get it to the end user. And why does this happen? Because, again, we have to keep things moving. So I can't really stop and fix the breakdown. I know they dropped the ball, so we create a system for the ball dropping. Instead of looking at the system of where the ball is dropping, I don't have time for that, so we just work a new system. This is adding time. This is adding frustration. This is adding money to your bottom line, or to your expenses, right? It's taking away money from your bottom line and creating more expenses to your organization when we don't pay attention to the system's breakdown and the owner of the system. So that's when we find effort increasing, but outcomes plateauing. If you really look at it, probably year to year, it feels you're getting more busy, more busy, more busy, more busy, more busy. But when you look at the results and your outcomes are not moving at the level of your busyness. It seems like the more busy you get, the greater your outcomes should be. But that's not always happening. And so here's the insight that I want to sit with you. A system usually doesn't fail because people don't care. It's not because people are not paying attention to quality. It's not that they don't believe in excellence per se. It often fails because, once again, you have not, as the top executive leader, you haven't identified who owns the outcome. There must be an owner of the outcome. Now, when teams see this, something begins to shift. Once they start to see the themes from department to department, when they start seeing the breakdowns, I'm working with a few of my clients on this, and even individually, I'm working with some one-on-ones. It's pretty enlightening because, again, something begins to shift within them. And they realize it's not that we need a new program. It's not that we need to hire a consultant to come fix it. It's not that I need to kind of crack the whip to get people to work harder, or I need to hire a new staff or bring in someone to compensate for the system's failure. They start to see that it's simply, again, looking at the system, how it's supposed to work, how we're working it with all the breakdowns and the system's failure and the workarounds and the unspoken rules that get created in the system. And we start assigning ownership. Those two things. If you do those two things, I found with a few of my clients that it literally saves hundreds of hours of workaround, hundreds of hours of labor. I want you to calculate the cost, the average cost of a person that you've hired and that works in your organization. Just calculate it and multiply that by 100 and multiply that by however many people have their hands in a process. 10, 15, you might be in the millions after you figure out the calculation of that, right? And these two things, when you slow down in your organization, Mr. and Miss Executive Leader, when you do this, what you find out is, number one, it's going to make you cry a little bit, like, wow, we've been doing this for years. Why have we been going 1, 3, 5 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Because when you go 1, 3, 5, by the time you get to 3, you figure out it's not all the way like you should. So you got to go back to 1 and track what happened. But then you create the system 1, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's how many organizations. I want to stop here. I want you to think about your organization. Does your organization seem like the results, like, again, you're more busy, more overworked year to year, but the results are not increasing at the level of the busyness of your organization? So, defining clear outcomes. Defining clear outcomes. That's what you want to do. You want to analyze a system, find out where the breakdowns are, and then define outcomes. I'll give you an example real quick. I was had a meeting, family meeting. If you're a parent, this might resonate with you. I come downstairs and I look on the island, I look on the table where we eat our dinner and eat breakfast, and I keep seeing these water bottles just hanging out. It's always about that much, maybe a half bottle, but it's always just three gulps, and you're done. Nobody puts it in the refrigerator, nobody pours it out. But then when I call the kids down, I know it wasn't me, I know it wasn't my wife. So I call the kids down. I say, listen, who left the water bottle on the island? Who left the water bottle again on the table? Guess what the answer is? If you're a parent, you already know. Not me, wasn't me. I didn't do it. I drank mine. I put mine in the recycle bin. Oh, I poured mine out. I put mine up in the refrigerator. No bottles in the refrigerator, by the way. No bottles. But they did it. And it's no one's problem. That might be in your organization as well. Right? Who did this? Why didn't this happen? Why didn't we get this in on time? Well, I did my part. But again, they don't understand the entire system and where breakdowns are happening in the system, and there's no ownership of outcomes. So what I had to do is I said, listen, no more am I going to ask whose water bottle in it is it. I said, our responsibility, everyone owns a clean island and a clean table where we eat. Everyone owns it. In other words, if you come down here and you see a bottle, your responsibility, owning the outcome, is to say, whose is it? If no one responds, you do two things, or one, maybe three things. You look at it and pour it into the coffee water, reservoir thing. Look at it. I always hold it up in the light, make sure there's nothing floating in the water. but just take it and pour it in the coffee reservoir. Or, if there's no cap on it, just put it in the refrigerator. At the very worst, pour it out. Especially if it's only 3 gulps, just pour it out. I don't want to waste water, but just pour it out and put the empty bottle in the recycling bin. So now I can now monitor outcomes because we all own it. So it's no more asking who did it and why. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. We don't have that problem anymore. It's everyone. Hey, son. Hey, daughter. You're downstairs. You saw a water bottle. Did you own that? That's your responsibility. Every system, this is all I'm saying, every system needs an outcome owner, someone that you as the top executive leader can go to and say, did we get this result? It is that person's responsibility to also create sub-owners within the system. So maybe Department 1 is supposed to hand off something to Department 2, but Department 1 and 2 needs to know the outcome that they are produced, and there needs to be an owner of that. So whoever's owning the whole system needs to say, hey, we didn't get this. And they need to know who owns it so they know that one person to go to. So when ownership becomes clear, 4 things I'm going to give you. When ownership becomes clear, number 1, priorities begin to align. Number 2, decisions get made faster. Number 3, handoffs become more cleaner. I shouldn't say that. They become cleaner, not more cleaner, right? They become cleaner. And number 4, people stop working around the system and they start working with and through the system. So we design systems and leadership behaviors that make performance more impactful. This is what we're talking about, the system and the owner. We design that to work collaboratively, collectively, cohesively together so that performance and productivity is more impactful. One statement that I love to share, and I hope you'll write this down, is you don't get mission-driven outcomes or mission-driven results by reminding people of the mission. You get mission-driven outcomes or mission-driven results by designing the mission into the system. You design those outcomes into the system. In other words, not just the task. If you only design task, then it's easy for me to say as your employee or your direct to say, I did my part. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Check, 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 check. But when you make me an owner, it's no longer I did my job right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's did my job produce the outcome. I hope you're getting this. I know this is probably a little bit more technical than what I normally would do for the coaching session, but this is the work that I do at BEK Impact Company with my clients through the executive team strategy session. So again, you don't get mission-driven results by just announcing the mission, talking about the mission, making sure everyone memorizes it. That's fine and dandy, and that is important. But if you want mission-driven results or outcomes, you design the mission and its outcomes into the system, and you assign an owner to those outcomes. So I want to leave you with this question. What system in your organization right now lacks a clear owner? I want you to think about it. What's the system in my organization that lacks a clear owner? Where do I need ownership of outcomes in my organization? Who owns the outcome from beginning to the end? I want you to think of a server at a restaurant, right? Someone that's attending your table. They take your order. They don't cook the food, but they make sure that the order that they receive is the food that is landing on your table, that they place on your table. In other words, there's an owner. If your steak, you said medium well, and it's medium rare or vice versa, then they know a system. They know who owns that. Do you have that in your organization? Are there owners of your system? You need someone. If something breaks down, you need one person that you can go to say, Fred, Fanny, Jerry, Jane, whoever the name is, we're not getting this outcome. We're not getting this productivity. We're not getting this result. What's going on? It's their job then to go look at the system and those sub-owners to find out if they understand the outcomes. Once again, not just the task that produce an outcome. The task is not the outcome alone. It's not optimized by task. It's optimized by collective outcomes. Again, Department 1 and 2, they need to learn how to work together so that they produce a greater outcome for Department 3. All right? Because that one shift, just simply clarifying ownership, it's going to unlock more progress, more performance, more productivity, smoother transitions, work getting done effectively and efficiently. You're going to look at your organization and realize how many hours you're saving. You're going to look at the stress, the unnecessary stress just lift off of your team, off of your executive team, off of your directs. You're going to see, again, results being achieved in an increasing manner. Again, and here's the thing, you're not going to get faster, you're going to get better. You're not going to be overworked, you're going to be more effective at producing results. And then your busyness is going to go like this, but your results are going to go like this. That's the way you want it. And that's what happens when you focus on systems design and who owns the system's outcomes. My friend, listen, I hope you got something from today's coaching session. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If anything that I've said today resonates with you, I want you to give me a call, sign up for a 30-minute clarity call. Now, during this call, I don't sell, I don't pitch, I don't get you to try to agree to do business with me or allow me to be your executive coach and leadership strategist. It is what it is. It is a 30-minute clarity call. And the purpose of the clarity call is simple. It's to help you get more clear. I want to help you walk away with questions that you weren't asking before, to see things more clearly, to have a pathway to a better result that you couldn't see before. So the link is in the notes. That is it for me. My name is Barry E. Knight, and my purpose and calling is to help you succeed in yours. Two fingers.